Hey, Welsh Metals here. Today I'll be tearing apart some cheap remote control aircraft controllers to see what's inside and gather any e-waste mineable material. So here we have the controllers. Not actually sure what's in these, but we'll find out. And then I will identify any materials of value or use. So we'll do this one first. Seems simple. I've modified this before. There's a gold-plated aerial connector there. As you can see. We've got pliers to take that off. It's quite on there. As you can see. There we go. Now it's loose. Bolt is also gold plated by the look of it, but it's starting to tarnish. Bit of Velcro stuck on there, that could be useful. Peel that off. So let's get inside this thing. Screwdriver time. Seems to be quite loose. Pretty sure I modified this for the HHC racing drone which it controlled. And this has been also modified with a long range aerial. But it's had its day. Came apart quite easily. So, plastic control knobs there, several screws, so iron, the screen just comes straight off and has a nice connector there. The backing also comes off, should do at least. Now it comes undone from the side. I'll do that with a smaller screwdriver, see what's in there. There we go. Not much. Little circuit board with the squidgy part and the screen name, the product name there. You can see. Which is H8829. There's a nice little screen. As is. Don't want the bezel. The screen itself would be good for replacements, as there is nothing wrong with it. You know that, but the controller is playing up. Likely due to failed welds and such through time, as this has been used in all sorts of strange temperatures, from boiling hot to freezing cold. So there's the aerial connector, which has been welded onto the receiver, transmitter. And connected to the battery pack, nothing major. Just snip that off. These connections can be salvaged also. Battery connectors. Can be useful for making DIY battery banks, things like that. Some are quite stuck in there. I'll leave the last two in there. Have some there, complete. Nice little set, and some parts gathering up. You can see. So, let's rip that off. Nice gold plated material upon that, as you can see. Very, very shiny. Good electrical salvage. What else we got on here? So, plenty of solder. That's on all these solder points. Got an IC chip here. Nouvotron. Not sure what make that is, never heard of it. There's lots of makes you've never heard of for these IC chips, but that likely contains microscopic amounts of gold, some small amounts of palladium on these little brown MLCCs, and trace metals in these resistors as well, such as silver, ruthenium, osmium, and various other very rare metals, but only in trace amounts. These tactile switches in fact contain small amounts of silver. You can see they're quite shiny, but the silver element is actually inside. It's what makes the clicky sound. Some transistors here. These again contain silver. These analog controllers contain small springs in order for the recoil action to take place. And there's also a small amount of brass upon there, as you can see, holding it in place. More switches. LED, they contain microscopic amounts of precious metals, silver. Lots and lots of pressy buttons. And a piezoelectric buzzer that has a piezo crystal within it. Again, good salvage. Have a oscillator here on the receiving and transmitting part of the device. These contain silver. See that little black square? That's actually an IC chip as well, which also contains some precious metals. That being microscopic amounts of possibly gold or silver and other dye. And some silver plated connectors, not many. So, good stuff on that board. Let's continue. Next controller. Going for an emotion drone one here. It's actually used to belong to my father, Flat Earth British, who lost his drone in a field, which has never been recovered unless someone else found it. But either way, the drone that went with this controller is gone. To be fair, it wasn't his fault. There was a lot of long grass that hadn't been cut. There should have been on a race course at that. So, fair enough. Quite a few screws on this piece. I've got 3 controllers to take apart. This will be the second. Good stuff in that first controller. Good amount of circuit boards. The drone that this controller came from was slightly more expensive. It may contain better components. Tell right apart the plastic. More toggles and knobs. Quite useful. Pairs of other devices. So now we have a small timing crystal here straight away. You can see that there, that cylindrical bar. LEDs, more tactile switches, as I said before, these contain silver. Nice big piezoelectric buzzer also. Let's see what else is in here. There's no screen on this one, so maybe some more material underneath, probably. The controlling mechanism. This is a higher quality board, as you can see, expected as much. Have a couple of small switches on the side, push them out. There we go. The tape, Chinese and tape, I love tape. Anyway, here we have a nice IC chip. As you can see, that little square bar circuit chip, and that contains more gold, well, silver in trace amounts, or bits of both. I have more separate tactile switches here. These are on little PCBs. These can likely be separated and resold for electrical projects. Quite nice quality. We also have some MLCCs, not in big numbers, not as much as I suspected, but the solder appears to be of a higher quality. As you can see, it may in fact be silver solder, probably is, whereas this is likely just lead-free solder. So one contains antimony, one contains trace amounts of silver, antimony and tin, as a lot of electronic solders would do. Well, they do these days anyway. All technology tends to have lead alloyed solders. So, getting a nice amount of circuit boards there. Last piece, this little controller. This is for a miniature drone, those little mini ones you fly around the room, which I have several of. So I also have several of these controllers, which is quite unneeded. But then I do sort of cannibalize and mix and match, modify drones and such, with my electrical knowledge. Ooh, that's actually not too bad. Straight away, nice IC chips and Palladium MLCCs, transistors, and quite a bit of silver solder on this one, considering that it's the smallest one. We also have some external tactile switches on these little PCB boards. As I said, they're useful for electronic projects, good for salvage. Not all the components should be scrapped, some of them are quite usable, like that screen or these switches. Can be sold in nice job lots for electrical projects with things like Arduino. Look that up. I've done a lot of experiments in the past with it. It's quite interesting. Teaches you how to code to a degree, and there's lots of courses out there. It's also quite cheap. Although in my day there was no Arduino. Just had to tear everything apart and see how it worked. So, same again, except you have a toggle switch here for an on-off switch, whereas the others have different style toggle switches. Oh, there's a 3-pole switch on this one, but it only switches 2 ways. It's a double pole, single pole, single throw switch. This one has 3 poles, all soldered, unusual, but yeah, only 2 are connected on the PCB board itself to the switch, so it's a single throw switch. Quick examination of the circuit board could tell you that. Have another LED here, another capacitor. Capacitors are okay salvage material, silver plated and very pure aluminium at that inside of these. I have another timing crystal here, sheathed within some heat shrink. These contain silver, as I've shown before. I've also shown how much is in these little things. Check out some of my videos on e-waste teardowns, and you'll find out just how much silver can be found inside of them. That being a little bit pretty much guaranteed, or even some gold, if you're lucky. So definitely worth collecting those little things. So we have a lot there. Let's inspect. It was actually better than I suspected out of those 3 little controllers. It's definitely not nice size PCB pile. Various quality boards at that. Lots of useful components. There's lots of gold recovery materials, silver, antimony, tin, palladium, trace exotic metals, and more. So, very good. Oh yeah, also have that. The coaxial aerial connector that's gold plated. And some knobs for controllers, for repairs, modification, custom builds, things like that. Again, useful for to be sold in job lots, things like that. So good salvage here, not just for e-waste mining, but also resale. Some quite nice looking circuit boards here for electronic salvage. So I hope you learned something about where the goods are located on such cheap items and what materials to look out for. It helps with your electronic mining and such. And I'll see you in the next teardown.